I've been a believer for a long time that there's a gap in the market for well-performing models around the £100 price range that have decent liveries, acceptable levels of detail and basic lighting. With its current level of discounting, this Class 35 from EFE Rail was just what I was looking for. It's time to take a closer look. Hi, thanks for joining today's review. We'll kick off with a short unboxing, followed by taking a look at the DCC installation. We'll then go into our close-up views, our running session, and then finish off with our summary, scoring and final recommendation. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to be reviewing this Class 35 Hymek from EFE Rail. These have been on sale for a while. I've been kind of tempted to look at them. I've had a Hymek many years ago, but haven't had one for quite a while. And I kind of wanted one just to fill in this particular era. And these were going at a very good price. So I said, let me try this out and I'll share with you, I guess, how I've got on. So it's from EFE Rail, and I did have a pretty good experience with the a recent locomotive from EFE Rail that I did do a review on. Their Class 58, and I was kind of happy enough with that, actually. I thought it performed well and it had a good level of detail. So let's see this guy and see, does it compare to the same degree. So we've got the normal sheet here, we've got the detailing for the front, and we're just showing the detail of the buffers, etc., the front assembly. If you're going to insert the snow plows, which I might do, it's probably an 8-pin. It is an 8-pin decoder. Again, I might try one of the TXS decoders. I'm not sure if there's a profile for the Class 35 yet, but I would expect maybe over time we might see one. Okay, so let's put that away and let's just focus on the model itself. It comes with a nice protection, and overall the packaging I think is to a good standard, so no complaints there. We can put that guy in. We'll take this, take him out of this particular piece, so we'll just take the outer bit off. Okay, and we'll open this bag. And there is a decent weight. There is a certainly a decent level of weight here. Yeah, it's got caught. Let me take him out. And underneath we've got the extra parts. Okay, I can see the snow plows in there, so you've got to kind of break them off with a scalpel off the little spurs there. That's fine, we can do that. They're black actually, which is kind of interesting. And they're not weathered either, so they would need to be weathered to go with this model. This does have a weathered finish. Okay, let's take a look at this. So I'll say there's a good level of weight. So this is down as a weathered finish, which I think you can kind of see on the base. Now it's not the best weathering in the world, but it's fine, I guess. It doesn't look that realistic. They're not sprung buffers now or anything like that. It's that kind of weathering, which, as I said, it's a painted weathering. It's not quite what you might expect if you were to do it yourself. It kind of looks okay, but it's not to the highest quality, just put it that way. Let's just see our pickups. So we've got pickups here on all wheels, and I suspect we've got drive on all wheels. We do, yeah. And obviously these are a Bobo type configuration, 4 and 4, which is characteristic of the Hymek. The glazing is nice on those windows. Separately fitted handrails, again metal handrails, which is good, and grab rails at the front. Separately fitted wipers, horns, very basic cab area, but it's fine. It's it's adequate, and a certain softness about it. I guess the tool was probably a soft tool, probably an old tool at this stage. The bogies look fine. They're not the most complex in the world, but they're certainly functional. And again, you have to put this into the context of the price of this model. And it is discounted now, and it should be discounted. It shouldn't have been. The original prices for these didn't really make a lot of sense, and we'll talk about that later on. Overall, appearance-wise, it's kind of fine. It's kind of what I was expecting. I'm okay with it. It isn't the top level. It's not a top tier product. But I think it'll be functional, that's for sure. And so long as she runs well and we can get the lighting working to a good level, I'll be happy with it. That's kind of as far as I want to get with it. This is not an Acura scale model or something like that, or a new Bachmann. And I didn't pay that sort of money for it. But it does feel pretty solid. And as I said, if my experience with the 58 is anything to go by, I'm thinking this should be a pretty decent model, and will hopefully it'll perform well, because the Class 58 did perform well and I was pleased with it. Okay, that's the unboxing for this. Let's take the close-up views now, and we'll go from there. Okay, before we get into the close-up views, I want to take a quick look at the DCC fitting on this particular model. So we've taken the cover off. It's pretty easy to get off. There's nothing in particular that you have to do. It's just some clips, and it comes off pretty easily. And then you've got this really basic printed circuit board. So this kind of tells you, what the level of the lighting is going to be, and it is very simple on this model. There's an 8-pin header there. You can see it, again, pretty kind of crude looking header. But plenty of room for putting in your decoder and at least a modest speaker. Installation is very easy, and I went with the TXS decoder because I did want to use the Bluetooth control. Even though it doesn't have a Class 35 profile at this point in time, I just used the Class 37 was already on the decoder, so I just used that. I guess the message here is it's pretty easy adding a decoder to this particular model. It's not a lot of fuss, and it did run really well with the Hornby TXS decoder installed, and you'll have seen that during the running session. Okay, let's get into the close-up views. So there is a little bit of oil on this model, so apologies, I hadn't cleaned that off before I took the close-up photograph, so just discard that. That's just a little bit of oil on top there. I think the model is very presentable. I think the lettering is fine there, the BR logo, the livery is fine. There's a level of weathering underneath, which actually works. Probably not my favorite weathering, but it actually does a decent job, and when you see it on the track, I think hopefully you will agree with me. The glazing and window frames are fine, no issues there, they're all pretty clean. There's a little bit of softness in the tooling, all right. You've got the grab rails there, and again the glazing, very basic cabs of course, but I think it's better than a railroad model, that's for sure. So it's a step up from that level, and I found it very presentable on the track, to be honest. So we'll take a kind of 360 view now, so you get to see the front as well with the head codes and the various grab rails and stuff. And at the front, separately fitted wipers, separately fitted horns, and separately fitted grab rails. So it's got decent levels of detail. The buffers are fixed, of course, so there's nothing great there. And I say that the cab is a pretty basic cab. So again, nothing outstanding there either. But overall, it's presentable. I mean, that's I think the point about this. It doesn't need to have the nth level of detail when it's running around the track, and I think again, hopefully you saw this during the running session. It does look presentable, and I think the level of factory weathering actually works. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're looking for your ultra detailed model that you want to put into a display case, for example, this is definitely not that. This is a model to get out on the track and to run it. And so that's just what we're going to do right now. We're going to do a shortened version of the running session. I just focused on the locomotive. As you see, there's very basic lighting. So the head codes are illuminated both ends when you turn it on. So there isn't even a control for those. But the running performance is really, really good. It's very smooth. It seems to be pretty powerful. It can run at a very fast speed. So, I ran it right up to its maximum speed. Now, it does draw a lot of current. That's the only thing. This locomotive does draw quite a bit of current. But I didn't have any problems with it. I didn't have a power pack installed, and I didn't need it, which again is a testimony to its running performance. And here I'm kind of putting it through its paces in the running session.
and I think it looks the part. I mean, I think at the end of the day, does it give you reliable performance? Yes, it does. And does it look the part? I think it kind of does on the track. On closer inspection, no, it's not going to be that detailed. It's not going to be like an Acura scale model. But it depends what you want it for. And I think for my purposes, for this particular model, this tick the boxes. And I think, what I paid for it, which is around that £100 mark, was fine. And I think I'm pleased with that purchase. I mean, I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what you have to measure it against. So we're just going to slow down now, and its low speed performance is very good. I didn't test it under any significant wagon loads or coach loads. This is really what I tested with. These Acura scale coaches, which I'll cover in my next video, are exceptionally good. So they're exceptionally low resistance runners. So they're not a particular drag on this locomotive or any locomotive. So we'll talk about those again. But slowing down now, it's everything you could want. This is a very, very decent runner. And, NSA didn't even need the power pack. I think ultimately you may want to put the power pack in there to give you that little bit of extra coverage. Okay, so a very good running session. Okay, let's get into our summary. So our review model today is the E84004 from EFE Rail, which is a Class 35 Hymek in the British Rail blue livery, and it also comes with some factory applied weathering. It comes with all-wheel pickup and all-wheel drive, and it runs on minimum radius 2 curves, though I think you'll probably get away with it on radius 1 curves as well. It comes with NEM pockets with tension lock couplers that are included in the detailing kit. Its lighting is pretty basic, has illuminated headcoat boxes front and rear and directional taillights, and it comes 8-pin DCC ready. As mentioned, it does have a very basic detailing kit with some snowplows and some extra detailing parts. The top scale speed tested was 113 miles per hour scale speed at 100% power, and that was drawing a whopping 420 milliamps. If you drop the speed down or go down to 75% power, you'll get around 73 miles per hour scale speed, and the current drops to about 320 milliamps peak current. Now, the minimum level of current tends to be around the 200 milliamp range, so this locomotive does draw a lot of current, there's no doubt about that. Though I didn't experience any issues with it over the 2 weeks that I had it on the track. The unboxed weight is a decent 500 grams, and the selling price varies significantly, so you'll see it discounted to $89.99, anywhere up to the ridiculous recommended retail price of $179.99, and that's as of September 2024. So let's look at the scoring. So for the running performance, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I think it's really, really good. And I didn't have any problems in the course of my running session, and that was running without a power pack. Now, ultimately, the power pack will be needed to give you coverage for those kind of bad areas of track. And this is in a Bobo type configuration, so that can be a little bit more susceptible to brownouts in terms of power from the rails. So that's why it's not a 10. But really, the running performance on this was superb. And while it does draw a lot of current, it's a very good performing model, that's for sure, and I'm well pleased with it. And it does have a decent level of pulling power as well, so I didn't really test that, but you do have all-wheel drive and all-wheel pickup and a decent level of weight, so this is definitely a decent running model. Appearance and detail, I'm giving it 7 out of 10. I mean, it is what it is. I think the livery is fine, and I think the weathering, while not perhaps my favorite weathering, it does actually work okay, and I think when I look at the running sessions, I think this model actually does look pretty decent on the track, despite its limitations. But it is what it is. It doesn't have, the next level of detail that you'd get on the Bachmann or Acura scale models. I think it's still very presentable. Extras and variants is limited, so the lighting is particularly limited. The headcoat box lights aren't the best in the world, and also the rear tail lighting is scarcely visible. So this is not a model to be, relying on the lighting. But I think it's probably sufficient for what it is, and it wasn't an issue for me during the running sessions. Again, I thought it was pretty presentable, but it is limited, and things like the cab detail is limited as well. And the detailing kit is a bit crude. You have to take the pieces out with a scalpel, etc. So it is what it is. There are a number of variants in different liveries, so that does give you at least a few options to play with. Build quality overall, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, and I didn't have any particular issues with it. There was bits of oil and stuff like that on the model when I took it out of the box, but That's a minor issue. That's really just something because it was sitting in a box for a period of time. So overall, I think the build quality is decent and not a particular issue. Again, would welcome feedback in the comments if people have had experiences with their models. I think the packaging is actually quite good and gives quite a good level of strength. The documentation is very basic, so that's probably a slightly lower score because of that. But as I say, the packaging side of things was very good. And then the price value, I've put it at the £100 mark because this is kind of typically the price you'll probably pick this up for. Some of them are a bit more, some might be a bit less. And I think it's very decent value at that range. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Now, if you were to use the recommended retail price, it's a 0 out of 10. And I'm showing the overall scores then based on that. So overall score is a 7.7, which if you're in the market for a model in that range, I think is very acceptable. So I don't have an issue with that. Obviously, if the pricing, you're paying the higher prices on this, then it's just not going to be something to look at all. This is a very similar model in many respects to the last EFE model I reviewed, their Class 58. It's a pretty basic model with limited lighting and detail, but the overall appearance is to a sufficient level to hold up when on the track, and most importantly, it comes with very strong running performance. At its recommended retail price or anything close to it, it just doesn't make sense, but as it approaches the pricing level of an equivalent Hornby Railroad model, it starts to look like a much more attractive proposition, and given my experience, I was well pleased with it. The EFE Rail Class 35 Hymek won't be for everyone, but if you're looking for excellent running performance and presentable appearance, at its discounted price, I have no problem recommending it. I really enjoyed running this model on the layout, and while I had to make do with a Class 37 sound profile, it did run flawlessly with the TXS decoder under Bluetooth control, even without a power pack. So what are your thoughts on the EFE Rail Class 35? And if you have one of these, what has been your experience? Please let us know in the comments. Also, do you believe there is a market out there for models at this level around the £100 mark, a step up performance-wise from the Railroad range and with some basic lighting at least? Again, let us know in the comments. Unfortunately, I've been tied up with other commitments, which means I have an enormous backlog of videos to get through over the coming weeks, so I'll endeavour to catch up over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I do want to talk about the Mark IIB coaches from Accurascale, so that will be my next video, and I also want to cover the Class 800 expansion packs. We need to talk about those. So thanks for joining today's review. Please hit a like if you found it of use, and I hope to see you on the next one. In the meantime, take care and happy modelling.